GEM International is a new diamond explorer in the richest diamond producing country in Africa, located next to the fourth largest producing diamond mine in the world. International Spotlight is on an 1109 carat diamond recently discovered in Africa by a fellow Canadian junior with a proven operator and finance team. GEM International trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol GI. Visit us at gemdiamondmining.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is White Rock City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun, David Chesney. Welcome back to the show, David.
Top of the morning to you.
White Rock is forming a task force to figure out why businesses are leaving the strip on the waterfront. TV and newspaper stories both mention the parking. And I can tell you, personally, it is kind of a problem for me, too. One of the reasons why I don't visit anymore. You're part of the task force. What are your thoughts on the pay parking and businesses leaving the waterfront?
Well, actually, first, Jim, I'll correct you on one point. I'm not part of the task force. The mayor had proposed the idea of a city task force, and at that point in time, because of, I've been talking about this issue for years in the White Rock Sun, so I acquiesced and asked to be removed from it. So there isn't a city task force right now. There is a BIA, Chamber of Commerce task force. So that's who's conducting the task force right now.
What are the big issues as far as you're concerned?
I don't know that there are big issues. We've always had an ebb and flow. We live at the beach. One of our strips, not our main commercial strip, is along the waterfront, and people only go to the beach when the weather's good. Family Day, Saturday and Sunday and Monday, our beachfront was packed. They couldn't find a parking spot. Every restaurant was full. It was bumper-to-bumper traffic. A week ago this past Sunday, same situation, beautiful sunny day, we were packed. Now, yeah, we've had probably more than the usual amount of businesses that close up over the winter. But I don't really think that it's, I think we should have been, on this a long time ago. And as I just stated through the White Rock Sun, I personally, have, been saying, hey, we need to do more to enhance the experience of our White Rock waterfront. Right now, it's a collection of, I believe, far too many restaurants in a concentrated area. And normally over the winter months, we would see one or two close. We had 5 close this year. But I think that's part and parcel too. There's not a week goes by that I don't hear of yet another new restaurant opening up in South Surrey in the Grandview Corners or any one of the districts that border us. So, the competition for the dining dollar has become incredibly intense. So, the good restaurants are the ones that are going to survive. And there are a number of them down there. As I've said in many interviews, Charlie Don't Surf, which is one of the second oldest restaurants in West Beach. The owner, John Carroll, recently told me that he just had his best summer ever. And I have to also note that he's one of the few businesses on that strip that spent a tremendous amount of money, I think $75,000 to $100,000, to spruce up the front of his building. It looks beautiful. 2 doors away, we've got a restaurant, and I don't know who owns the commercial property, but it's been closed, and the banner or the awning's blowing in the breeze. The paint is fading and cracking. So I think this is going to be, one of the things that the BIA is going to try to do is to somehow work with the owners down there to try to spruce up the waterfront. They're coming before council tonight to ask if we will remove pay parking for the next 2 months as a test project. We need to have a lot of discussion on that. I don't know what the lost revenue would be, and I'm not sure. In the winter months, it's $1.50 an hour. So I don't know that that's usury by any stretch. $3 a month in the summer. I don't think I've ever put any money in the parking meter because I live close enough. I either walk down or ride my bicycle down, so I don't really ever find myself in a situation where I'm having to pay for parking. So I don't know. I think it's a pretty thing for some of the businesses that have suffered down there. They just look at that pay parking and they go, you know what? That pay parking is killing me. You said it at the offset. You don't come here as much because of the pay parking. But in a number of the interviews that I've done with various media outlets in Vancouver regarding this. I've asked and prefaced the conversation with the interviewer, when was the last time you came to White Rock? And in a lot of cases, it's been years, and it wasn't necessarily because of the parking. I think we can and should be doing a better job to remind the people in the Lower Mainland, from West Vancouver to Chilliwack, we're alive, we're well, and we'd love to have you come by and visit. A terrible thing happens if you don't promote. Nothing.
Right. Do you have a plan to attract more businesses to the beach, a variety of businesses?
Well, I think that's going to come out of the task force. We give the BIA through a levy $340,000 or $330,000. We also give White Rock Tourism, which is now being helmed by Surrey Tourism, $100,000. So the money is out there. I think we just need to put a concerted effort and just reinvent ourselves and rebrand and reproduce all the messages that we want to get out to people. I mean, we have, I hear people all the time say, oh, I haven't been there since the sandcastle competition. How come you don't have that anymore? There's a big article in the Vancouver Sun recently. I wish I could tell you why we don't. I've been beating that drum for 15 years that we should be bringing it back. It branded us worldwide. We were the sandcastle capital of the world, and everybody knew about us. We let it go. I don't know why. I know at the peak we had 450,000 people on our beach, and we have the pictures to prove it. People go, well, where did they all park? Well, I'll tell you, they just abandoned their cars, drove them up on sidewalks into people's front yards. It was a mess, but we let it get out of control. It was, its success killed it, but I think we can bring it back in a much more regulated manner, and we should be doing that.
Yeah, I remember I went to the very last one where you had a record low tide. Prime Minister Mulroney arrived in a hovercraft that was mobbed, absolutely mobbed, and it was out of control, but at the same time it wasn't violent. I didn't feel unsafe. And the reason they said that they canceled it was they arrested something like 30 drunks. And I thought out of 450,000 people, you only had 30 arrests. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know whether I believe that number of 30 arrests or not either. I was to every one of them. And the night before the last one was where the problems arose. People started gathering on the pier and on the waterfront, and that, I think that's where the police became very concerned. Not so much the day of the event. I think the majority of those arrests, if there were 30, happened the night before. But again, start dispersing the crowds before it gets too big. It built up over 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and the RCMP, because I lived very close to the beach and watched it develop, they should have been moving those people out of there long before it became the problem that it did. It could have been an explosive situation, but that was the night before, not the actual day of the event.
Right, and of course you can just put up roadblocks or something saying, sorry folks, the city's full, please turn around.
Absolutely.
The amphitheater, is that going to be built? Who's behind it? How much is it going to cost if it is?
Now, when you refer to the amphitheater, I think you're talking about the redevelopment of the little green space near our pier and our museum. There has been some talk about redeveloping that little strip of grass is called Memorial Park. We certainly need new washroom facilities there. We have beautiful new ones at the end of East and West Beach. But the main pierhead, our bathroom is deplorable, has been for years. And again, it will be part of the major redevelopment if it does happen. There's a couple of stumbling blocks. That's land that we lease from BNSF. So we're in negotiations from BNSF whether they will allow that major redevelopment on their property. Our lease, I think, is up in 2020. If they chose not to, not that I have any indication that they're not going to extend that lease, but if they didn't extend that lease, we'd have a $4.5 million project that we just spent taxpayers' dollars on that literally BNSF could bulldoze. So we have to be very careful about that. I think the Semiahmoo First Nations also has some thoughts about the redevelopment of that property. They claim, and maybe rightfully so, that is territorial land. So it's not a done deal. It's still very much in the working stage. But to call it an amphitheater, no. There would be a public stage plaza built there near the museum where we could hold civic events and that, but certainly not what one would naturally assume or likens it to be an amphitheater.
So this is something that's quite complicated. It's not just simply a matter of, oh, let's build something pretty because it would bring more people.
Exactly. And it's not our property. That's going to be the big stumbling.
What kind of relationship does City Council in White Rock have with the local Aboriginal band?
Well, it's been pretty well documented, not very good up till recently. There's been a new election, a new chief was elected. I don't know the mayor was going to, protocol dictates the mayor has his first meeting with the new chief, and then we meet the chief and their council. That's not been done yet, but I hold great hope that the new chief is going to, try to bring things back on board. We have told the Semiahmoo First Nations, we've supplied water to them. We told them that basically they should be looking at Surrey to supply that water, in that when White Rock separated from Surrey, they're not part of White Rock. They decided to stay with Surrey. So it makes sense that Surrey should supply that water. It basically, came about as a bit of a rattling of sabers between City Hall and the Semiahmoo First Nations, and unfortunately it I think got blown out of proportion. I'm confident that hopefully under the new leadership these problems will be worked out and we can get back to having a very productive coexistence next to the First Nations of Semiahmoo.
We'll have more with David Chesney right after the break.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're talking to White Rock City Councillor David Chesney. What came up at your community meeting on Saturday?
Well, it was, we've got our new official community plan, which we've been working on for 2 years. We have the final draft coming before council tonight. Then there'll be a series of open houses where residents will be able to come and examine the document. So people were, wanting to talk about that, about the build-out, where is the development going to go, how far across the top of the hill adjoining the current town center are we proposing to allow increased development. We right now have got 7 high-rises in our town center that are either approved or quite possibly could be approved very quickly. So my personal feeling is that that's where we should concentrate the density. It was in our old OCP. I think that should remain. I don't think we should be looking at building outside of the town center. If we approve all of those 7 high-rises, which I don't see that there's going to be a problem, our uptown is going to be completely changed in the next 5 years. So I think that's kind of what the people were saying Saturday, is that they don't want to see any densification or any high-rises outside of the existing town center. The new OCP calls for a lower town center down the Johnson corridor of densification and some taller buildings there. The concern is that that's kind of a gateway. We will lose the spectacular ocean view vista that when you drop down below Thrift Avenue coming down the hill into White Rock, it opens up to you and you get this beautiful ocean view. Well, if we start filling that corridor up with high rises, that's going to be disappearing. So that was one of the big topics. And people, in frustration, they're kind of like, well, what can we do? And I tell them, I said, well, there's an election 2 years from now. If you're concerned about the future of your city, you should make sure that you do the checks and balances and see who's going to be elected in 2018. See if they share your view of White Rock, or are they going to be fully backed by developers?
White Rock's right on the Canada-U.S. border. Do you think White Rock should be declared a sanctuary city?
No. I don't see any advantage to that.
Do you think that there's going to be a huge influx of illegals coming over the border? No. I've seen that in Manitoba, out in the middle of nowhere, walking up railway tracks. I don't know. I think there's been a slight increase. There's been a couple documented news items of people that were arrested at the border, but this has been an ongoing thing. People have been walking through that. That border is like a sieve, really. Why people would choose to cross so close to the Peace Arch border crossing, I guess because of the major transportation routes that get them up to that part of the border. But if they went 15, 20 miles, to the east out past Aldergrove, they'd have a whole lot easier and probably increase their opportunities to cross. But we've been busting people crossing that border illegally since that border was built. But there's not been a major influx, to answer your question. The mayor's been on TV talking about moving the railway from the waterfront. Is the railway open to being moved from the beach?
No, I don't think BNSF has any desire to move that. The number that I've heard is it could cost upwards to $1 billion to move that rail line. There are a couple of routes that people have proposed, but then again, you're going to start running all that rail traffic through somebody else's back door, and the way South Surrey is being built up, the pushback is going to be immense. I believe that we've come to a conclusion that the city of White Rock and Surrey is going to put together collectively $100,000. I'm not sure. Probably ours is $20,000. Surrey will put up $80,000 and do a study about moving it. But BNSF is I don't believe has any interest to move that rail line, and that's going to be the clincher.
White Rock water quality. What's in the White Rock water system now that could or should not be there?
Well, we have high levels of arsenic and manganese, which we're trying to bring under control. We just built a new chlorination plant. We're going to build a treatment plant for the arsenic and manganese. This is a problem. People often, the residents are asking, how much is this going to cost? Good question. We're buying it back from EPCOR, the city of Edmonton property used to own the water system, and we bought it back from them, but it's going to go to arbitration now for a final price, and that could be tied up in the court for years. So I don't know what the final results will be. I have to tell you, the water coming out of my tap, there have been problems spot zoning through White Rock where pipes have been flushed out or new pipes have been put in that have caused some turbidity in the water, but I've not had a problem here. I don't have a overabundant chlorine smell. So we're working through it, but it's the arsenic and manganese that are at the levels of what Health Canada say are allowable, or they bounce slightly over it. So it's something that we're going to have to obviously address, and that's why we're building an arsenic manganese treatment plant. What the final price tag on this is going to be, I couldn't even venture a guess.
We'll have more with David Chesney right after this.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese, Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Keep informed. Receive our weekly recap of thought-provoking articles, podcasts, and radio delivered to your inbox for free. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage, HowStreet.com. Welcome back. We're chatting with David Chesney, White Rock City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun. The housing market is slowing down. Prices are dropping. Do you think it's fair for the city to raise property taxes in White Rock based on assessments taken back in July.
Well, we haven't seen the tax assessments, but we had a gentleman from BC Assessment come before council. Yes, the assessments have gone up. Some of them, a 40% increase. But that doesn't mean the taxes by any stretch are going to be going up 40%. We have a very, very small footprint of land here. So land, and given the ocean view and the proximity, talking to a couple of realtors that came to the community conversation on the weekend, they tell me that the condo market in White Rock is very hot. Single family homes have dropped down a bit, but generally speaking, they're telling me, and I have no reason to disbelieve them, that there's, still a really healthy condo market here. But the developments that are coming before us are all asking for phased developments. If it's a 2-tower or a 3-tower, they don't want to have to commit to building the 3 towers right off the bat. Based on pre-sales, they'll agree to sell 1, and if the demand is there, they'll build 2 and build 3. I'm not sure how I feel about these phased developments. We ran into a problem with a developer in our town center that had a project approved for 4 towers and only built 2 of the towers. The company's Boza, they're now back, and it looks like after 6 or 7 years, they're going to build these other 2 towers. So, I think if you build the right type of condominium, and I think the type of condominium that I see that's selling really well in White Rock are high-end, expensive condos that people retire, they sell their big home, and they want to move into a luxurious condominium with an ocean view. Those are the ones that seem to go, but they want 1,100 square feet minimum. Mom and Dad don't want to sell the big rancher and then move into an 800 square foot 1-bedroom. So if you build the right type of condominium, I think White Rock, in large part, will continue to be a retirement community, and I don't know that that's a bad thing. It probably doesn't bode well for a really big commercial strip, because generally people at that age are not out consuming a lot of money. They pretty much have everything. So the development that we have had in our town center certainly we've not seen any explosion in our commercial properties.
Taking a look at White Rock back in 2016, what kind of revenues did the city have, and what were the main sources?
Our main sources of revenue are, you mean the city of White Rock itself?
Yes.
Well, the only way any city can make money is through taxes.
And how did the city's expenses break down? Where do you usually spend most of your money?
A great deal of our money goes to emergency services. I think 1/3 of the taxes are spent for the fire and police. Roughly speaking, about 1/3 of the tax dollars go to that.
Mm-hmm. We keep hearing about government corruption. Is White Rock a swamp that needs to be drained?
I don't like the term, because it's in reference to a gentleman who I hold no respect for, but I don't think so. I think that we have a situation here which you and I have talked about. The majority of our council reflects what has happened in most councils in the Lower Mainland. It's been fully backed by developers' dollars. You're never, in a free society, people can take money from whoever they want. You and I, before this conversation started, alluded to this recent article in the Globe and Mail about, putting limits on how much money people can spend and who can contribute to the election war chest. That will probably be ongoing. I don't know about the provincial level, but I don't think there's going to be anything. I've not heard of anybody putting any kind of cap on civic elections. So to answer your question, I don't think we need to drain the swamp. I just think that, what I'd like to see is more than a 30% turnout when we have our next election in 2018. Whether that's realistic or not, I'm not too sure. But that means that only 3 out of 10 people are deciding the future of this city.
Yes, it's ironic because municipal governments have much more of an impact on your life than the national government does, yet the federal elections get the big turnout. Do you think there is government corruption at the municipal level?
I don't know. That's a difficult question. Do I think anybody's being paid off personally, I've seen no indication of that. There's always rumors, but that's all they are, is rumors. To the best of my knowledge, I've not seen anybody provide any kind of information to indicate that there was anything untoward as far as elected officials or senior staff being bought off and paid individually.
Are your community conversations gaining traction, and do you think voters have taken notice that a number of council members refuse to make themselves available to the residents of White Rock?
Gaining traction is a difficult thing to gauge. We bob around anywhere between 15 and 30 people per week. I've often said it's not the quantity but the quality of people. It was part of my election campaign. I told people if they sent me to City Hall that I would host these community conversations. I was hopeful that we could do them as a full council. We can't. We haven't had that kind of support. Again, I've clearly indicated only one other councillor, Helen Fathers, attends on a now and then basis. But that wasn't why I created them. I simply gave them the opportunity, people, the residents of White Rock, if they wanted to talk to an elected official in a very relaxed one-on-one atmosphere. That's what I would do. That's what I've done. And that's what I will continue to do for the full term. I'd love to see more people out, but again, you can't teach people how to live. They're busy with their lives. They've got shopping to do, take the kids to the soccer practice. I don't know. It's certainly, I don't take it as a negative that we don't have 3 or 5 or 700 people at these meetings. I think that would be unrealistic. Would I like to see more? There's always new people. There were 3 new people this week. So as a result of that, yeah, I guess we're making headway in my mind, because we're not getting what has been, brushed aside as sort of the usual suspects in White Rock that write letters to the editor, appear before council, write to the mayor and council. There is that element, and God bless them for being engaged. What I really love to see is those new faces that come out and, have some good questions and walk away, shaking my hand saying, thank you very much for doing this. I'll be back. So, if everybody brought a friend, yeah, maybe we would end up with 500 or 700 people, over the years, but it's not the size that matters.
Have you heard of any other communities having these conversations?
I think the young councillor over in Langley, Nathan Pakal, who was elected in a by-election 6 or 8 months ago, I think he's doing something similar to this, though I've just heard a rumor about it. Haven't had a chance to get over and see what he's doing, but I believe he's doing something similar. I wish they'd have spread like Johnny Appleseed. I went to a number of different UBCM meetings where mayors and councillors from all over BC, and I tried to talk to as many as I could from the Lower Mainland and told them what I was doing and urged them that they should be doing the same thing. But Nathan Pakal is the only one that I'm aware of that may be doing something similar to this.
What do you think needs to be done to make White Rock great again?
I think it's pretty great right now, to be very truthful. The sun's shining out there. I'm looking out the window, big billowy white clouds. I love living in a small community. It's why I've lived here all these years. I want to know the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. So for me personally, I think White Rock is very special. It's why I love it here. It's why I call it my home. I can still go down to the beach on a beautiful sunny day, get an ice cream cone or order of fish and chips and sit out on the beach and listen to the seagulls squawking and the waves crashing and look out at the beautiful ocean. It's a beautiful place to live. Could it be better? Absolutely. I think there's always improvements that can be made, but I don't, as I said at the offset, as far as the Marine Drive thing is concerned, I'm not sure that we need to be, I'm happy that the BIA and the Chamber of Commerce have taken on the mantle of trying to spruce it up, clean it up, get things popping back on Marine Drive. Maybe we can get a few more events going on down there in the summertime. But it is the beach. It has no commercial offerings other than restaurants and 2 or 3 or 4, swimwear stores or a Hempy's gift shop. And I've said it before, if you go to Fort Langley, if you go to Steveston, you can browse through a wide variety of shops. That's what I'd like to see. People often have said they say it all the time. Have you ever been to Carmel? Have you been to Monterey? Yes, I've been to all of them dozens of times. Sausalito, even our sister city down the road, La Conner. I know what we could be, and I think, that hopefully this task force comes up with a number of ideas. I, for one, have always thought that we should have a marina here. I think that would do very well for boosting our economy. I wouldn't, buy into boathouses or anything, and I don't think we have to have a mammoth marina, but we have a lot of people in this area that have boats, and they'd like to be able to dock their boat in the community they live in, as opposed to Blaine or Point Roberts, or some people are all the way down in Cole Harbors where they have to moor their boat to find moorage. So with all the boating traffic up and down the coast, it would be a tremendous tourist initiative if people could come in, tie up their boat, stay at one of the B&Bs or hotels, have dinner, do a little shopping. I think it would be a good commercial boost to our city.
Are you planning to run for re-election in 2018?
I would if I think I probably will, and I'm hopeful that I see a couple more names on the ballot that I think share the same or similar vision to what I have, that are going to run. I don't know if I thought that I was going to have to go through another 4 years of the trials and tribulations. It's been a tremendous learning curve for me, I'll be very honest to you. And I'm ever thankful for, the broad shoulders of my fellow councillor, Helen Fathers, who's run interference in this, as I can't imagine having gone through what I went through, all alone. So, I'd like to publicly thank her. My love for White Rock, my desire to, reflect back, which I believe, what I hear back from the community, we still haven't arrived at that point. So, all in all, it's a difficult question to answer because 2 years from now is a fair time away, but it could be here very quickly. I think I probably will run again. I'd like to have a real shot at being in a council where the majority of council has the similar vision to me.
Just getting into city council in a very small city, can you imagine, with no political experience, going into probably the biggest political job in the world, the President of the United States, without any experience?
I can't imagine that at all. And I'm sure the aforementioned Mr. Trump is probably finding out that it's more than turning up at the odd rubber chicken dinner and waving to the crowd. The amount of meetings, the amount of paperwork that I have to read even at this level is staggering. Now, I know that he has staff and aides and that, which I don't have, but the amount of work and the responsibilities must be absolutely mind-blowing at that level.
David, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Jim, as always, I thank you for taking the time to providing this forum to engage our community and to promote the fact that White Rock's a beautiful city, and everyone listening, come on down. We're wide open, and life is great at White Rock.
And when is your next community conversation?
Next community conversation, looking at the calendar, and it's no joke, will be Saturday, April 1st, White Rock Public Library at 10 o'clock.
Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Jim. I'll talk to you next month.
My guest has been David Chesney, White Rock, BC City Councillor and editor of the White Rock Sun. Thanks a lot for listening to the Goddard Report. I am Jim Goddard. Join us again as soon as you can.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.